Alrighty. Okay, so we're live, and we're live at the CIP Father's Day conference. So today is Father's Day. Uncle Ben, happy Father's Day! Happy Father's Day! And today, where we do some kind of alert to say that we are on. I want to share a bit about Uncle Ben. But you know, if you are part of TIP, you are part of the intentional parent, there's nothing that will, make you not have seen Uncle Ben's posts. A lot of people will say when he shares, "Oh, so where is Uncle Ben? We want to hear what you have to say." I want to really say thank you to Ben. It's been awesome. It's been amazing. The support has been really overwhelming. Somehow, we met again online, even though we grew up in the same city. But Uncle Ben has been so supportive. But despite his busy schedule, he's one busy man that you can't think of, because a lot of the times I just look around, I'm like, oh wow, how is he able to really, do a lot and then also be active here? So I'm going to read a bit about Uncle Ben, even though many times he just says, I don't know which one to write and which one to leave out. But today we'll read a bit, and then share one or two things about Uncle Ben, because our viewers are already here. Uncle Ben is going to be discussing fatherhood, and if there's anybody that I know that leaves the talk, this is one of those men. He's a clinical psychotherapist, an NLP master practitioner, a solution-focused counselor, a solution-focused hypotherapist. So there are a lot of psycho-hypo in his CV. So permit us, right? So what you need to know is that Uncle Ben is also a scientist. He doesn't like bringing that out to bear as well. But for the purpose of this class, yes, Uncle Ben is a life coach and he's a therapist. All right? His focus is on behavioral change, and his main area of work is trauma and stress management, especially childhood trauma and neuroimmunology, and of course, behavioral change aspect. So Uncle Ben is streaming live from the United Kingdom. And in the United Kingdom, Uncle Ben will be described as a behavioral change expert. This is not the first time we're going to have Uncle Ben in the Intentional Parent, anything forum. Uncle Ben is going to be here. He's here for life with me. He's stuck with me somehow. And at the annual conference, he's also going to be going full-blown speaking at that conference. We're so glad to have you here today. Like before we just started the session, I just told him, I said, even though we have a relationship, I'm not going to take this for granted. If I do, then I have a problem. I want to really appreciate you, sir. And I do not take the fact that I can bully you on these sessions at any point in time for granted. He's one of those people I can just think, who will come and speak? And I just think, Ben is there. Let me just call him. I really appreciate you, sir. And thank you for being here.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. I mean,
oh, right.
I know what is going on, and I'm fully committed to this. I support it. So thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. All right, sir. So I'm sure our viewers we want to know also. Somebody said they are glad being here. Thank you so much, Evangel. Thank you for being here. I'm sure our audience would like to know a bit about your journey as a father. Please, can you share with us a bit about your journey as a father? I know you have 2 children, and yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so I have 2 lovely children, and my daughter is 9, and my son is 2.5. Like many fathers, the journey of fatherhood was a bit surprising to me. Even though to a good extent, I would say I was mentally prepared. I was ready to be a father before I became a father. However, the job doesn't come with the manual at all.
Mm.
My dad spent a lot of time with me, telling me about preparing me to get married, about being married, right? My dad, my mom, I'm one of those that would say I'm lucky that I was prepared to be a married man, unlike many other men who, I mean, in the traditional African context, the lady child, the female child is prepared for marriage, not the male child. But in my case, I was also prepared for it. So things will happen in the house, and my mom would say, "Hey, come and see how to treat a woman. Look at it." Or my dad would do something and say, "Come, I'll show you. This is how to treat a woman." So I learned stuff about marriage. However, because the part of being a father, being a parent, um, like many people, I stumbled into it,
Mm.
and it was shocking. So for a while, my daughter was living with my wife for a while, and with my sister at the time as well, because my wife was traveling around for work, and so I wasn't there a lot of the time. And that made me, and I thought I knew. I mean, I was a good dad. I have video calls from her with her all the time. I know what's all her milestones, but that wasn't enough. Now, with my son, the story changed entirely because at this point, my wife had changed jobs and everything. We moved in together and everything. So I was there from day one and went through the entire pregnancy journey, and it changed me. It really did change me. And then everybody being together as a full family was a totally different journey altogether in its own. So I realized, okay, I've never, I don't have an experience of being a full family man like this, as I thought. So what do I need to do differently? And I embarked on a journey to understand more about the child psychology side of things. So at this point, as a behavioral change expert, I was focused on sorting people out from their own childhood traumas, but I didn't fully understand how that was happening day to day, practically, until I started with my own kids. And so it wasn't anymore about textbook study or classroom study. This is about seeing it right there and then, seeing what is going on at every point in time, seeing how at the time my son was born, my daughter was 7. So it's like seeing how a 7-year-old is relating to having a baby, in the same family and things like that. So I had to up my skills as well. I had to take more studying on actually how to do that job of being a father, being a
Mm.
dad, not just. I mean, a father. As long as you impregnate a woman and there's a child, you're a father, really. But
Mm.
fatherhood itself, which is the daddy side, being the daddy, is an entirely different journey, which I find that it requires full commitment. Unfortunately, not many people know where to get the skills they need. They intend to have those skills, they intend to do it, they intend to
Mm.
be there, but they don't know how.
Mm.
Which is one of the things that a group like TIP is really plugging an important gap. So I don't know if anyone has any specific questions or if this is in the line of what they'd like to hear.
Okay. Oh, okay. So we'll be asking you those questions. We have, quite a number. So I know that you've done a lot in the space of childhood trauma, people who had fathers, people who didn't have fathers, the effect childhood and all that. Can you share with us what is the study as regards people who had fathers in their lives growing up and people who didn't? Is there any effect? Is there
Yes.
something that we should be talking about for that? Because these days, also remember that we also have single mothers. So, what do you advise that this set of people also do if there is an effect of not having the father figure in this?
Well, I think I'm qualified to talk about this because with my daughter, I was, and I hate to admit that I was missing for a good part physically in her immediate infancy. And I can see the difference in who she is now, well, the past few years that she's been with daddy and who she was before then. And I could see some behavioral things that I will identify as, oh, that was because I wasn't there. And
Mm.
identify them and deal with them. So when you see people, I mean, a lot of studies have been carried out, and some of the very famous studies are the ones carried out in Harvard. And what you find is that the archetype of a father in itself is representative of a sort of pillar and strength for an infant. So if you think about the mother as like the roof that provides the nurturing, the father will be all the pillars around that will support the roof. So if there are no pillars, there won't be a roof. The roof will collapse and squash everybody with it. And if there's only pillars without a roof, then there won't be a complete cover. Every child really is entitled to a full father figure and mother figure. It doesn't have to be the biological parent. We find that adults who didn't have a father figure in their lives develop all sorts of issues, including behavioral issues. You commonly see with them is low self-esteem, drug use, drug abuse. A lot of people who have drug abuse issues or violence issues didn't have any father figure in their life, because a father figure evolutionarily provides a sense of security. Nature made it such that a mother does not represent security. A mother represents nurture. A father represents strength in that regard. This is evolutionary. And that's because if you go back to many centuries, the father, the man in the house, is the one that will go out to do the hunting. Is the one with evolutionary designed to have a peripheral a tunnel vision, which is why today men and women get into the issues of, oh, you don't know how to look for stuff. It's just right there. And the man didn't see it. Women have peripheral vision because by evolution they are meant to see everything around them to protect the offspring. So the man will go out and come back with the game for the family to eat, and then while the family sleeps indoors, the man with other males will be outside by the fireplace, and they'll be there quiet, and then have some conversations around their next strategy for how to feed the families. This is evolution. Now, we've evolved as a society and stuff, but our instincts and instincts in the brain remain. So it is wired that a child would feel a sense of security with a father figure. Where there's no father figure there's a void that is created, and the child has to look for a way to fill that void along their life's journey. And some of the ways that happens would be through peer influence, through adopting another type of father figure who might not just be the right person for the child. And when it comes to manly stuff, and especially the most disadvantaged in this case would be male children as well, because the male child, by the Oedipal syndrome, which is where a male child will gravitate towards the mother and a female child towards the father, means that by that design already, the male child is already configured to miss out a bit of paternity. And then when it is then sustained throughout, the male child starts becoming a bit more feminized as well, because the hormones haven't even developed properly in the first place. So and then society places all this pressure on males. Boys don't cry, this and that, and all sorts of things, which affect, and yet the void is there. For the female kid, the danger of that as well is they then start looking for daddy in any male that comes their way, which is also one of the channels that opens people up to abuse. So when we see drug issues, we see a number of mental health issues and all that can trace back to paternal neglect or total absence of a father figure in the life of a child. On the long run, when the adults then get older, into their 50s, 60s, they start having specific type of illnesses as well, because the area of psychoimmunotherapy is where we make the connection between what's going on in the brain and what is happening in the body, especially chronic diseases. A lot of them have been linked to childhood trauma. So a lot of some stroke, some heart diseases, some cancers, they're all linked to that, because the body, this is a projection of energy. So when there's any form of imbalance of energy, that's why the word used is dis-ease. The energy is no longer at ease, it's dis-ease. That's what it becomes, and it gets locked up in a part of the body. When you hear people talk, and where they make their gesticulation can tell you where they've locked in that energy subconsciously. And then when we work with them in trauma intervention, they come out, if you leave them entirely. So yes, the absence of a father figure creates a huge menace on the long run for the society as well. Today we're talking
Mm,
about the fatherhood and the society. What is a
mm,
society? Society is a gathering of different families. And what is a family? Father, mother, children. Well, when there's no father in the family, then the society already has issues. Now, in the past, it's physical. Now it is much more than physical. So fathers adopting their position as a father, because when a child is watching, and I see this a lot with my children, some of the things they say and do are the ones that you didn't even consciously tell them about. They just observed that, they just watched it and saw that. And when children are between the age of 0 and 5, their brain is in a hypnagogic state most of the time, which is in what we call a theta brainwave state. So they are most of the time in a super hyper learning state to absorb things all the time. And so they will absorb what they are seeing, which will form their template for when they grow up. So now this
mm,
man is 40, but has a total disrespect for women, even though he's a coach of some sort. And then he thinks it's an impediment he can't deal with. That is because it's happened when his cognitive centers in the brain haven't even developed.
mm,
And then that model starts being played out. In a sense, as well, because nature makes it so that we outgrow our mothers. So even in the animal kingdom and everything, at some point, the offspring must leave the mother. Mothers, and in the human world, winning is where we start. Okay, stop stopping breast. That winning starts creating some of the distance slowly into the children leave home. So nature made it so you will leave your mother. You will never forget your mother, obviously, but you will leave your mother. Your father is the principle that you would guide your life with. Your mother is the physical nurture you need. Your father will be the principles. So when there's an indolent or inactive father presence at home, it means that the child is not getting the required survival skill in the form of principles, ideologies, purity, understanding, required to get on with their journey. And so when that child eventually becomes a parent, well, what can they give? They can't give what they don't have. So this
mm,
is why when we're talking about some parental things with some fathers, they look at you with blank expressions. They don't know what you're talking about. They just don't know at all. They cannot relate to it. Not that they don't desire to, but they just can't. And then look at what we know about in our society, in the workplace. What gave rise
mm,
to things like feminism or equal opportunities? These same men who look at others as objects, especially the opposite gender, are people who lack that emotional connection with their father.
mm,
So it's not enough. Yeah, parents, three things must happen, right? There must be a dependent entity that needs parenting, so the child. There must be an adult who is willing to accept the responsibility, which is the parent. And then there is the child's attachment, the attachment bit, where the child has to attach to that figure for parenting to happen. And that's where things start to go sour. Because many people can't deal with that attachment. They don't understand the attachment. They don't understand why it has to happen. And then the child will go off to attach to whoever will show any level of understanding. And then we start creating such a menace in the society. We start having a society. I mean, the rules that govern our societies or cultures or traditions are really, they don't really sit in the home. I was having a conversation with someone today and I said, one of the ways we can start to change how things happen in the society, in our society, is by changing the traditions we uphold at home. So where the children can see some of the principles that we expect to happen outside, when they can't see it at home, how would that work in the first place? I seem to have lost you, Wendy. I hope everything is still working fine. Are we still on? What effect do you think a child who once had a dad as a father figure but lost the dad to death when he hasn't turned 18 would have? That's a very good question, Chinon. So now the thing is,
yes.
the most crucial stage of a child is most crucially 0 to 3. between the ages of 0 to 3, a child doesn't have any cognitive centers yet properly formed in their brain, but they have their full emotions going on. And the child will know when you're available. They will just know. That's why, I mean, you must have seen cases where a child is crying, the mother comes into the room, and the child just stops instantly. And all they feel it because this is we are a full energy system. So when you are connected with your child between the ages of 0 to 3, that's when the real instilling of security, sense of I'm here happens. When my son was born, he fell into my arms, right, into my hands. I delivered him, and then this slimy thing came out, and all I wanted to do was like that, and then the midwife, helped me out, and we had gone through this toil and everything. He didn't cry, and the midwife was going, "Oh, give us some cry. We've been waiting for a while." I just called his name and I said, "Daddy is here," and he cried instantly. And from that time till now, whenever I use that phrase, "Daddy is here," I see the result. Now, when kids then go from 3 to 7, that's another crucial stage because now they're beginning to learn how society operates. Some of their DNA wiring, neural wire connections are now being reinforced and all that.
Oh.
Now, I think it's good. It's important to mention that between when the embryo is being conceived in the womb, between the age of instant conception to 3 months, the heart is formed, the heart starts to create the brain, things start developing. From 3 to 6 months, thousands of neural connections start to happen. And this is where the child starts to get programmed. That offspring starts to get programmed such that if they hear a noise, they can turn in the direction of the noise. If there's too much light, they can blink and things like that. And this DNA coding is passing from DNA information from daddy and mommy to the child, making the wiring. Now, the other thing that get wired as well will be, and nature sees this as for survival, the purpose of survival. I'm coming to this question, I haven't forgotten it, by the way. So the issue of survival means that the genes or genomes and any sort of genetic information that is perceived as required for the survival of this species will be transferred. So you would see kids that have a bad temper or get angry easily and say, "Oh, just like the father," or "just like the mother," or one that is, behavioral things that we associate with the parent. This is because as a parent, you doing this over and over means you've rehearsed it, and so genetically, it is coded as required for your survival. But everything we do, our brain interprets as required for survival, and so it will transfer that information to the offspring even before they are born. But this is because it is preserving the life of the offspring. But as the offspring is then growing between the ages of 1 up to 5, these things start to rewire depending on their environment. And then as they keep growing, some behaviors keep changing because it's only 50% that is pre-wired. The rest, can be rewired. Now, a child who has had a father figure at any stage in their infancy is less likely to have these issues as a child who never had. So let's say the dad was not there at all and then turned up when they were 15. There's a problem. The child already has missed out some things. So if when my daughter was born and everything, she never spoke to me, she never knew me, and then I turn up 7 years later, she would have a big problem, a massive, massive problem. Okay. Now, if the father, the dad has died, this naturally will put the child in a position of disadvantage because now the father figure is not there. And they are also in a situation where they now need another father figure to make up, to be there for them. So you need that balance, the yin yang. It will affect them on the long run, but not as badly as if they never had a dad at all.
Wow.
The same child might still be susceptible to peer influence. Every child is susceptible to that. But what happens before they get to that stage is what can make or break them. So I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I have seen people who they lost their dad at the age of 9 and 10, and then they are emotionally disconnected from some aspects of life just because they have this strong sense of no one got my back really. And bear in mind that as we are growing, we see our mothers more and more as just fragile superhumans, which is a bit of an irony, right? We see the fragility of the fragility of the femininity of it, so to speak.
Mm,
and then which makes us amazed at how much they can carry, even though they are this fragile. We recognize their emotional nature. We recognize a lot of things. So
mm,
suddenly, at a deeper level, you don't feel that secure with mommy anymore. You feel safe, but not secure. They're different things. So
mm,
if you're in a home and armed robbers barging with guns and everything, you're not going to look to mommy to protect you. You look to daddy to protect you, right? Because that's how nature has made it. However, if you're hiding behind mommy, you feel a sense of safety. Mommy will take the bullet for me first. You're not expecting daddy to take the bullet. You're expecting daddy to fight the bullet.
mm,
Different roles. And when we talk of gender roles, this is really is what gender roles will be from evolution. So that child will lose a sense of security if there's no alternative. I have met
mm,
people who, as a result of this, had serious issues in their life, especially in relationships. That's the quickest, the easiest place to see it. The easiest place to see a fatherhood aberration or absence of it entirely is in a relationship. And when that adult gets into a relationship, you can tell quite easily whether they had a good relationship with their dad, whether they had a dad at all or not.
wow. That's some deep stuff that we just heard. Thank you so much for sharing, sir. Now that takes me to the next question. You know, there's a whole lot of feminism, stuff going on, and then part of what it is that I read recently, where there was an article where someone was trying to prove that, oh well, yes, all these things telling us that we really need fathers to be there is really neither here nor there. And women, by evolution, women can actually get themselves to the point where they begin to provide, some of these things that we have said about fathers. And this has sparked a lot of single motherhood, in the world, not just our society, in the world at large. And has this caused? And then, of course, we have also seen that day by day there are a lot of boys that are having behavioral issues,
Mhm.
more and more by the day. Could this be linked in any way? Is there anything that is there anything that has a thing to do with the way the boys behave? Our team is the boy, the father, and the society, because we cannot talk about fatherhood without talking about the boy.
Oh
So
yeah.
does this have anything to do with the behaviors that we are seeing, the things that are happening around with boys not being able to actually really father? Because day by day we're seeing fathers who are not really fathering, and a lot of them who were raised by single parents. Are you saying that there is a relationship, there is something that can happen, that these people who were raised by single mothers might lose out on some of those things? Because from this science, I know that this is deeper than we can see in the surface. So I want you to throw more light on that, sir.
Okay. So for the records, I'm what you would call a feminist in the sense that I believe in female empowerment. I don't believe in depriving anyone anything because of their gender. And
Mm,
I don't believe that because I have a penis, I'm more superior than another person as a result
mm,
of that. I think it's wrong. But the feminism movement, as we know it in many places, I think has caused more harm than good. It started with the idea of shining a light on a problem. However, it's gone into a different
mm,
direction and really affecting people in a very negative way. Because when you think about the word fight, we are fighting for a right. Anything you're fighting for, you're not thinking about. You're not in a creative mindset about, because fight is a survival instinct, fight or flight. And from
mm,
the way the brain is wired, when you're in that state, you can't be creative in the frontal lobe. Your energy is cut out from going there
mm,
neurologically. So a single mother with the best will in the world is still a mother, not a father. And this is because by genetic composition, there's a reason that a boy is a boy because of the last two chromosomes they have. Okay, so out of all the 22 and everything going on there, 23, I think, the last two will make the difference If it is XX, you get a different gender to if it is X and Y. And there's a genetic reason for this. So this is because you can't have an up without a down, can you? They exist together. You can't have a left without a right. They exist together. Okay. So you can't have a balanced child with only one of the genders. The way nature, as I would always say that we're just a pile of energy, chemical energy, electrical energy, and magnetic energy. That's what we are when you
Mm.
strip all there. Let me not get into the science of it because I could talk about that. That the reason that when we start up in the womb, we all start up on the same template, and then things start happening, and then we branch off, right?
Mm.
Now, a female is a female, not just because of the gonads they have, not because they've got a vagina instead, not just that. There's a lot of hormonal configuration going on, which means chemically you as Wendy, chemically you're configured differently to me. And it's not
Mm.
just about estrogen and progesterone or testosterone in my case. It's not just that. Those drive all different other things going on. Now, if you were to um like I've got a plant, all these plants here. If I was to put this plant outside when it's an indoor plant, it's not going to survive because it doesn't have all the things it needs outside as opposed to inside, right? How can a child have a balanced childhood when there's no father figure? Even if the single parent has a boyfriend or a brother or a chef, a cook, whatever, in a staff that is male and is connected to the child will be all right. Because bear in mind, fatherhood is more of an archetype, is a role. It's not a person as much as it's a role, but it's a role that can be fulfilled by only a certain type of configuration. Just like the role of motherhood, I cannot physically be pregnant.
Mm.
Okay, so um, 2 years ago, even last year, even this year, my wife actually she's made that habit of on Mother's Day she will give me a card and say, "Happy Mother's Day. You are both a father and a mother to all of us." Right? And my wife, because when she says that, I said, "Now, what do you mean?" She goes, "Well, no, the way you look after everybody, including me." Now, but that doesn't make me the mother of my children. My children don't call me mother. They call their mother mother because I am not their mother. I
Mm.
can nurture them. I can look after them. I can only do what is physically possible for me to do. As soon as my son goes on the mother's bosom, he falls asleep instantly.
Mm.
There's a connection there that is like the umbilical cord is never really cut. So feminism is not helping family values in
Oh.
the way it is going on from my perspective.
Mm.
I think feminism should be about education, not activism. I think it should be about a communication of mindset, a change in mindset or concept of existence. So people are people. If I had three daughters and no son, it's not nothing is wrong with me. It's not a problem. We've evolved from where you must need a son for you to be a man and so on. We've moved on from that time. So feminism is saying because I have five daughters doesn't mean that anything is wrong with the five daughters. Feminism should be saying my female children should also have a right to inheriting my stuff because they are my children. You don't just give it to the males and forget the females. I remember once I traveled home with my wife, and we went to a restaurant, and then the guy opened the door for me, and then not her. He almost looked at her like, as soon as I walked past, he was leaving the doctor. Doctor turned around and said to him, "Why did you do that?" He said, "A woman now." I said, "Don't be stupid." And I really told him off right there. I realized that there's something innately engraved to treat women slightly lower. Now,
Mm.
I'm against that, and I think that's what feminism should be about. It shouldn't be about what a man can do, a woman can do, because that is not true. What a man
Mm.
can do, a woman cannot do. A woman cannot impregnate another woman, full stop. A man cannot carry baby, full stop. So there are subtle differences, but in terms of general societal existence, we can all coexist the same way that a black person and a white person can coexist. And if anyone is fighting, is against racism, for instance, but you're not against gender inequality, then that's hypocritical completely. And people will say to me, "Well, the Bible says wife to submit to their husband," and I say, "Well, have you read it in the different prehistoric translations and how it is about submitting one to another? And have you read the context of that? Why? What made Paul write that letter in the first place? There was a specific situation going on, and also, are you aware of the tradition of that particular culture at the time, where it was a culture where a woman was likened to as an object? So you go to war, and what you do is you take their spoil, their wives and their goods and their this and that and that. The women were not respected. So we putting all that into context, the story changes. It's not about be the lord of your mistress. No. So in my perspective, if feminism gets it right, it will create a better world. It will create a world where people respect each other properly. It will not create a world of where, in fact, it would create a world where a single mother would actively find a father figure for her child. It will create a world where the single mother can dissociate her own perceptive experiences of whoever the man, because she didn't impregnate herself, right? Except she went to a sperm bank. But if that wasn't the case, she knows the father of her child. And so whatever made you not interested in the man, and it might be valid and everything, doesn't mean you deny the child the opportunity to have a father. You don't have to live with the man for the man to see his child, except it's dangerous. Obviously, we've seen very dangerous people, pedophiles, all sorts of people. If the man is proved to be dangerous, then clearly protect your child. But otherwise, do not deny your child a father figure. Let them have contact with their father, or have a responsible father figure that they can relate to. What is the outcome of this? Generationally, as we see, and this is proved by scientific data, men are getting more and more feminized, more and more feminized. And you got to realize that the brain, which is the source of all hormonal activity in the body, is an antenna. And what it does is it picks up what's going on in the environment and then communicates to the cells in the body to say, and the cells in the body have only two states. They're either growing or shrinking. And so it will say to the cells, yeah, environment is fine, grow. They will grow, they will replicate, growth will happen, development and all that. Or no, shrink. And that would be the other case. Now, science, I mean, in the past, we will use EEG to ECG and things will stick on the brain. Now we have the MEG, the magnetic one, that doesn't touch the brain, but is still picking brain activity. So epigenetics has taught us that the brain is actually a transponder. It's getting all this information for the cells. Now, the DNA lives within a cell. Each cell has a DNA information. That's why if we take a swab or your fingernail that broke off or your hair or whatever, we can identify who it is because every cell has DNA information. Now, when the brain is saying to the cell, this is how to behave, the DNA, which is just like light codes in water, it's I can't say the word, which means it literally holds data in water, right? That's what the DNA thing is. The DNA will upgrade. DNA information keeps upgrading and changing to support the environment you are at. For example, growing up, living in Owerri, I didn't need to wear winter jacket, right? I didn't need to put on the heating and all that. So physically, my sweat pores are configured differently. And then now moving to the UK, living in the UK, my body has to physically reconfigure so that I can adapt. That's what the accounts for adaptability, to live where I am. So now when I come home to Nigeria, in the peak of Hamatan and everyone is wearing sweaters and things, I'm wearing a singlet, I'm sweating. Why? My physical pores are opening more. The cells have reconfigured because of the change in DNA code, because of what the brain has told them to do based on the environment. Then if I stay in Nigeria for a longer while, it will all reconfigure. And if I move back to the UK, I will feel extremely cold. So this is how it works. So if a single mother that is then raising a child, that environment of no male presence, no father figure, is going to reconfigure the DNA information in the child. It's going to suppress the production of certain chemicals in the body because those chemicals are created because of the interaction going on in the environment. A mother carrying the baby creates oxytocin, a lot of oxytocin in both the mother and the baby, which is why the bonding happens. And it also happens with physical touch. A child that is not getting hearing the voice of a father, how can that aspect of them even develop properly?
Hmm.
So, and that's the real problem. So we're going through stages of go and look at the different generations. Go and look at how the level of inactivity is increasing. Go and look at how the attention levels are decreasing more and more and more, and all these things. And we put it down to parenting, but deeper than just parenting is the genetic environment created by the immediate environment, the family environment where they are. And a family can't be a family without a father or
Hmm.
without a. So if I'm a single father, I don't really have a family because we're not
Hmm.
complete anymore. Okay.
Hmm.
Um, Evangel says, but what of the father that is not always around? He goes to work and comes back weekends. I'm glad you asked this question because it is exactly the same
Oh
case.
yes.
In fact, if
Wow.
anything, this is worse because what is
Wow.
communicated to the child is you're not important. My work is more important than you are. So the child will grow up. Or if you see those people that are go-getters, they really always want to work hard for something. They just can't, they are restless. They have to be on an activity and all the time and everything. Trace it back. They probably had defunct fathers or defunct mothers.
Hmm.
Because that as we grow older, these things also change tone, but it's the same thing. So as a psychologist, I will see through certain behaviors, I will see through certain words people use. I will see through certain facial expressions. Even by looking, Chinese medicine has taught us about how the different parts of the brain, or not brain, the face, um, physiologically and anatomically map to things that happened along our journey. Okay, so if the father is always not around, yes, he's missing out in this child's development, which is going to affect the child. It's going to affect the child's perception of the world around him or her. The child is likely going to perceive the world to be not a very complete place and a world where they have to deserve. Because a father like that, when they come back at weekends, they're also tired. And because they've not been around too much, don't know the child or the children, and then very well, and then the children will come to do things, and at some point he will lose his patience, or he will say, "Oh, I want to rest," and all that. Losing that engagement, which communicates to the child you're not important. And then that is why 99.999% of everybody's got this placard we are carrying around going, "Make me important, please don't ignore it." Everyone is walking around with that. Where did that come from? That didn't come from society telling us that we are useless. It came with
Hmm.
innocent parental neglect or circumstantial neglect that created
Hmm.
a void that words can't fill. I hope that answers the question.
Wow. That's even, in fact, before Evangel put that up, I was actually going to talk about it. So, what you just shared is that absentee father is even worse than the father that is not even there at all. So, at what point do we begin to look at what point will you say that the fatherhood system itself, became distorted? Because will you say that in our time that we had more fathers present than in this time? What changed and what triggered the change?
I feel that fathers are actually becoming more involved now than ever.
Okay.
and and this is because of our of awareness. Science is teaching us more, we are learning more. Okay, so yes, that is all the this is some of the good aspects of social media and technology. We are hearing things, we are seeing things, we're understanding things a lot more. And also, the side that will freak people out a little bit is the fact that generationally men are getting more feminized, which means that fathers are also becoming more nurturing than
Okay.
historically. All right.
Hmm.
Now, a lot of this also has to do with the environment we live in now. We now don't live in a period where we have to be scared of tigers jumping out of the jungle to eat us. We're now not living in situations where we're afraid that the whole family is going to, well, all the men will be sold to slavery or castrated and things like that. We're not living in those times anymore. We're not even living in times where being a black person means you can only do certain jobs. Okay, I'm black, but I don't do a menial job. I'm a government consultant, for goodness sake. Okay, and I interact with very, very, very high profile people. So, uh, which maybe 30 years ago, I probably wouldn't have the job I have now, regardless of my skills.
Mm.
Okay, so those changing effects mean that some behavioral patterns that were necessary to exist in that particular civilization is no longer fit for purpose now. So it is a good thing. The people who are fathering now are people who experience the impact of absentee fatherhood themselves. Many people did not like it. So people are making all that active effort to be there. But what you notice is they want to be there, but they don't know how to. They don't know what to do when
Mm.
they are. Many fathers will tell you they don't know how to emotionally connect with their children because they don't even understand emotions. Why? Well, when their own father was the one with the fewest words, daddy doesn't talk much. Whenever daddy talks, he scolds because you've messed something up. Um, when you get it right, dad will say, "Oh, well done. Okay, now do it better next time." That kind of thing. When daddy comes back from work, everywhere in the house is quiet. Mommy will have to rush and make sure that his food is ready, and then he would watch TV. When daddy's watching TV, no one else watches TV. Everyone has to go out and all that. Saturday, daddy's reading newspaper, blah blah blah. He will go and play some golf or whatever it is. Now, these guys saw this growing up, and it is fact that a woman will always default to the mother's behavior. What the woman saw as a girl from the mother will form the default template, and the same will go for the male child. Now, and this is not, and I'm not even talking about, even if the mother has, there were 10 house helps that were nannies that were looking at the baby, it is that registered behavior of the mother that will form the template more than anything else. And others will add to it. Now,
Mm.
this child then, who actively would hear the mom speak against the father's behavior, maybe, or has grown up to say, no, that's not right. He finds himself not knowing how to do anything about it because it's been already programmed in at the stage in your life where you just observe and get and take in. And and when children between that age of 0 to 7, the brain is absorbing what it thinks is required for their survival and will bring it out when it is required. So all these things are absorbed. The child is growing up as a man and everything is going well. Then he becomes a father. The brain goes, oh, I have a template for being a father, and it will just run that template from the defunct experience. Then we get into the situation where a man will say something like, I don't know how do you do this? How do I feel emotion? I don't understand why when my child cries, my boy cries, I want to tell him to shut up.
Mm.
I know I shouldn't, but what do I do? They don't know
Wow.
what to do because a certain other program is running. And the only way to deal with that is active study, active dedication to program that, which is the good news, it can be programmed. Okay. So yeah.
Okay, awesome. You know, the good news is that it can be reprogrammed. I think I like that part. And of course, in TIP, we are more focused about the reprogramming than we're focused about the things that have been done, you know, that have spoiled. So it's important. What we're looking at is way forward. Our
Mhm.
conversations are geared towards how do we begin to get this right? What are the steps that you're going to be recommending to fathers? We have fathers listening in, and this is a fathers conference. We've been on for the past how many days? There have been different things thrown out there, and we want steps, practical steps.
Mhm.
How do fathers begin to reprogram some of these things? How do we begin to recreate, you know, some of those things that we have done or that have been scripted in our head, so to say?
Okay. One of the this thing Chinyere put up about feminism is making me, let me make a point and then I'll answer your question because it links to it.
Did
Is
you
that
get that, Uncle Ben?
yes, I did. Yes. Can you hear me? Are we still on? Great. Okay, so because of the society we've inherited right now, we don't know, there's no way of knowing how many children have a father figure on, which means that fathers, men like me, wherever we find ourselves, it helps for us to start having some idea in our head that we might be the ones providing a fatherhood role to someone without knowing. So that is an extra pressure. Can you hear me? It seems frozen. Well, I keep going, I think. So that's extra pressure. But what can you do as a father? Number one, intention is everything. Realizing that you've been dropped into a job that you didn't get the job description and you didn't get any manual is key. And that willingness to re educate yourself is where it all starts. And it's as simple as saying, every day I dedicate 10 minutes to study something about fatherhood or about parenting, just 10 minutes every day. That's a practical thing. Two, knowing your place in the life of the kids is a big deal. So the common oh, go to your mommy, oh, go to your mommy, it's only you replaying what you learned, it's not you helping the situation. So constantly asking yourself the question, am I doing my best right now? It's also a very practical step, because when you demand of yourself to do your best all the time in that job, being a father is a job, is a role. Okay, it is not just an identity, it's a role. Fathering is a role. No, actually, no, fathering is not a role, but fatherhood, being the father, fathering means you put the sperm there and there's a child, but being the father, the fatherhood itself is a role. And anybody can play that role, right? A biological father may not be the father figure in a child's life. And so for you as a father saying, right, I'm going to do well in my role. What do I need to do well in my role? Assess your values, assess your belief systems. What is your definition, personal definition of fatherhood? Write it down, look at it, and then challenge it and ask yourself, is this really correct? Where did I learn this? Look at them one after the other and ask yourself, yeah, but how is this real? How is this true? Question it and question it until you get what is your own. So we find that what we really just play out is other people's perspectives and other people's views. And then number three is, so number one is being very intentional about it. Number two is taking the small steps, and scripting. Actually, number three is scripting your own definition of fatherhood and challenging every aspect of it. And then number four is the collaborative side of things. There's a difference between collaboration and cognition. Cognition is not enough without collaboration. Cognition is, now you're aware that you're a father, you're aware that there's fatherhood to be done. Now you're going to collaborate. You're going to remember the three things I said that makes qualifies for parenthood would be a dependent child, a dependent entity, which is the child, a willing adult, which is the father or the mother, and the attachment. Now that attachment is everything. Understanding that where the attachment does not exist means that there's a problem with the process. So constantly demanding of yourself to say, how am I supporting and improving the attachment that is required here for my kids to function well with me? Because if you don't create that attachment, they will look for it outside. They will look for it from whoever validates them, whoever gives them that sense of I got your back. They will move there. It is a void that it is natural, it is required for the development, not just survival, development of the child. There's a reason that we are not born as born adults. We are born kids, and then we have to go through the different steps to grow. So when a father is not pulling their own weight in that parental journey, then what you're doing really is depriving the child of survival instincts they require. And a lot of these they require to see, even if you don't know what to do, what about modeling right? What about being a man of principle? What about being the one of do what you see me do? I don't want to talk much. Just watch me. Could that be true of you? If would you really hand on heart say, yeah, if my child is like me right now, I'm fine, and the society will be great.
Mm.
How many people can really say that? And I mean, not by your job, not just if my child is also a successful doctor. I say, no, 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 no. As a
Mm.
person, looking at
Mm.
you yourself, being very honest with yourself in terms of your perception of your weaknesses or your traits, your personality, your behavior, and everything. If your child is a photocopy of that, would you be proud of it? Would it
Mm.
be? Would you say society has benefited or not? The answer is likely going to be not, because there's a reason why in Igbo language we say "Nwam kakwam," may my child, may my offspring exceed
Be
me,
greater than me.
be greater
Yeah.
than me. It's a blessing when
Mm-hmm.
our children do better than us. So
Mm.
based on that, a constant reminder every morning when I look at myself in the mirror, I actually say to myself, today I commit to be the best father I can be for my children. I commit to
Mm.
being the best husband I can be for my wife. Every day is part of my mantra. And this then puts responsibility on you as a person to be the best version of you that can bring out the best in others. Because when you're able to bring out the best in others, there will be better, seamless interaction and less friction. And where there's a friction, there's a problem. This problem is how did I enable this? What was my contribution here? Because there's only the contribution. What was my contribution here? Be willing, humble enough to think things and to keep them up. And then trust your instinct. There's a reason we have instinct. Instinct really come from what is called the gut. And we could usually call it gut instinct, but we have two brains really, the one up here and the one down here. And they function slightly differently. So our gut will always tell us, our intuition will always tell us what is right. But it doesn't scream and it doesn't justify, which is why many times it can sound illogical to us and then we discard it. But you will always, if you have that little space in your mind, you will hear that sense of no, this is not the right thing to do now, or this is the right thing to do now. So if you can trust your guts, your instincts, you will be fine. Also, use your eyes. There's a reason we have two eyes, really. Use your eyes. Be present. Be available. When you're with your child, be with your child. And
Mm.
opening your eyes means you are seeing things as they are, not just as you interpret them to be, but as they are. You can see that this child has a little scratch on his hand, or he smiles with one side of his mouth, or whatever it is. Open your eyes. The more you're engaged with what is happening right there, the more you will also be rewiring your neurological anatomy. Because any part of your brain you use, you strengthen. Neurons that wire together, and then but anyone you don't use starts to get defunct.
Mm.
So these are some practical steps. I think they've worked for me and still work for me a lot. And I will encourage fathers to do. You will never be a mother. You will never be a female. Don't worry. You will
Mm.
never lose your headship, if that's the word. No, if you won't. It's not in being an authoritarian. It's in being uh, a model. What look, the word discipline comes from disciple, and disciples only follow a worthy teacher.
Yes.
Okay. The Bible, as some will usually run to, and I love using the Bible to talk about parenting. The Bible will say, train up a child in the way he should
Should
go.
go.
Okay, and he will not depart from it when he grows up. Now, the translation of this actually, when you go back to the Hebrew text, will really say to you, God guide a child in the right path. It's not even about training, it's about guiding. But I love the word training, because training means that as the trainer, you must be trained as well. So are
Mm.
you trained enough to deliver
Wow.
the training you're trying to deliver?
Mm.
Or are you delivering that training based on an assumption of previous one?
What you
You
know.
are seeing what you're training a child for at all
Mm.
or not. And
Mm.
then it's also saying the way he should
Should.
go, not in the way you want him to go, not in the way
Mm.
is the best for him to go. but in the way he should go. That word again, if you go back to the Hebrew translation, means in the version, the best version of the child, basically, literally guide them in their right path. But everybody is different, so it means that verse welcomes you to work with your child, to understand your child, and guide your child according to your child, according to what is best suited for your child, because one size does not fit all. If you have 5 children, you need 5 different strategies. And it's hard work, but it must be done.
Hmm. I think I like the last part, because yesterday someone, the speaker yesterday, no, the panel discussant, we had two people on the panel, quoted this same scripture and said, in fact, described it in the same self way that you have this
Wow.
afternoon. It's interesting, and I know you were not at that session, so
Yeah.
it's interesting that this thing are just coming and speaking same thing. He
Wow.
was very emphatic, and he said, when the Bible says he should go, he said, God is not stupid. He could have said, train up a child in the way you want him to go. But he said the way he should go. The interesting thing is that you brought an interesting perspective to it. You said, if we're saying that we should train up a child, it means that you are a trainer, and you cannot train until you are trained. I think this is the highlight for me. You can't train anybody if you are untrained, because you can't train anybody based on assumption. In fact, this is like a cap as we're rounding up, on this. MC Chuku says feminism should be discouraged. That's a that's another conversation altogether.
I will actually encourage people to not fight the concept of feminism. Because what you resist persists.
Mm,
There's no need to fight it. There's every reason rather to pull out the right principles about it and reform it. And once you reform it, it's beautiful. I don't like isms, because isms really come from fight. We rather should be working to have full acceptance and respect for each other, and question some of the beliefs we have and see if they are still serving us. 300 years ago, 400 years ago, it served that the women were submissive to the men. It served that the women would remain at home with the children and the men would go out to hunt and fight. And it served that. We do not live in this society anymore. So there's no rational justification that Wendy and I do the same job and then I get paid more because of my genital, and Wendy's paid less, or the Wendy is not promoted because we have a mental bias that, oh, she's a woman. That is wrong. These are things that we should not encourage. Or a man leaves inheritance for his male children and ignore the female. Or you have a female child, and one of my clients, my therapy clients, part of the problem this lady went through for a long time started because the mother had her only for years and was constantly looking for a male child. And
mm,
so for years, this woman felt not wanted, not enough, not desired. Now that is wrong. We now live in a society where the number of sons you have don't make you any better, don't give you any extra right. So now these are the things we can accept and let them go. And once we do that, what is feminism fighting for anymore? The feminism agenda of replacing men, I don't agree with. I think it's stupid and useless. It doesn't work. But
mm,
feminism agenda of respect women, show regards for them and all that. There's nothing like, oh no, don't be talking like a woman and all, or sexualizing women, objectifying them and things like that. No, no, I do not agree with those. They're useless and should be thrown away. So yes, let us encourage the right aspects of feminism. It should be common sense, even. People shouldn't need to fight for it. I'm conscious that we're trying to round up, but I mean, if people want to ask more questions, I'm available.
mm. All right. So if you have questions, I think the questions from our end are gone. But if you have more questions, you can put in the comment section, and I'm sure Uncle Ben will be will be glad enough to actually help us throw more light to those questions. But there is an aspect that I would just want him to say a thing or two about, because he shared, later about it. In my book, The Discipline That Works, I tried to look at discipline and break it down and try to get a lot of parents to understand the concept of discipline. And it's one of the most misunderstood parts in parenting. And I've seen also that in fatherhood, discipline has become a key issue. Now, I have seen a lot of parents disagree on their discipline strategy because maybe apparently the father is constantly fighting, or maybe he's constantly using all sorts of force, and then the wife comes to say, ah, no, that's not how you should do it. And then, of course, that makes a mess in front of the children. And that's part of when you said, if you can't train someone if you're not trained. In fact, like I said, that is the highlight for this conversation for me. And what do you think? I know you've said a lot about what fathers should do as per the starting point. I think that fathers exert so much energy as regards discipline. In my line of in my line of duty, I've seen that there's a lot of fights. There's a lot of no. We need to kill the child for the child to become
But
to and all that. So I just want you to say
let us
it.
walk back a little bit. Let's just walk back a little bit, right? Um, Jack and Jill, they haven't gone up the hill yet to fetch any pail of water, right? But they've both been, they're both siblings there, Jack and Jill. Jill is the girl, Jack is the boy, right? Or
Mm,
Emeka and Nkechi. Now, the girl gets the pink dolls and all those things, gets a doll, a pram, all those things as toys. The boy gets a gun, a water gun, a sword, race cars, and things like that. So and I'm not saying the boy should be given doll. However, what is happening right here immediately is that right from day one, we start to program our boys towards violence, towards brawn, more than anything else. I think that the two should be more programmed towards brain than brawn. And now, this child already, what cartoons do children watch? What are they seeing? It's all violence, it's all fight, it's all some superhero thing. And so the superhero mentality goes deep. And this is
mm,
today's parents. People like us or older than us, we know where that came from. That's all they saw was, it was all about survival. I mean, after in Nigeria specifically, as it was in most of the world, there was a lot of wars at a certain time. But everyone that experienced that civil war, which I call genocidal war, had was left with some sort of trauma. These guys were living at a time when uncertainty was the way forward. And so neurologically, there was a problem. They existed in perpetual fight or flight mode. Our parents would just be unhappy for no reason. Okay.
mm,
That creates an effect in us who are now the parents of today. And then
mm,
what we're doing to our kids, in fact, some of the parents as well started with all this playing, violent play. And the violent play, mind you, a girl child, if a girl child is physically strong or violent, they say you're a tomboy. No, stop being like a boy. So it's almost like we celebrate physical violence in men is expected, is something we celebrate, but we forget that this thing we celebrate is going into different areas. So a man has a female manager, a female boss at work. He doesn't like her because he can't understand why a female should be his boss, and then he becomes recalcitrant and throws demonstrations in different ways. Now let's come to the home. Part of what I recommend to people, apart from courtship, I think when people are about to to get married, all those we do the background checks, right? We want to check that we are from similar family cultures. It is so important. We want to check that we have a lot of things in common, blah blah blah, and do marriage counseling. But I think that there should also be childhood therapy as part of that marriage counseling, and that therapy
mm,
where the two
mm,
people will go through a bit of inner child healing work, because and then the outcome of that at the end of that
mm,
therapy, they should then form their family strategy together as a couple before even get to even saying I do.
mm,
And so in putting
mm,
the thing, I mean, I'm not a marriage counselor at all. I don't feel I'm qualified to be one, but I've been sent some assessment. I've been asked to do an assessment once for a couple by the church. And then I sent them a very long questionnaire to fill. And at the end of the questionnaire, when they finished it and all, my professional recommendation was these two people will kill each other. They shouldn't be married, because you could see that they got completely different views of life. And you see, once the infatuation dies out, the cheats
mm,
and the problem starts. So I
mm,
would normally now will encourage anybody who wants to be married, or even those that are married, go and do
mm,
some healing work, and then
mm,
able to both of you to define your family strategy. What is our parenting strategy? What is our finance strategy? What is our tradition, our family ritual strategy? What
yeah,
family rituals are we going to have?
mm,
Including, oh, we must eat together every Sunday, or we
mm,
must have a walk every whatever. Create those things together and then work with the strategy. All
mm,
right. So men, unfortunately, because as I said earlier on, the fatherhood conundrum means that many don't even know how to do anything else. And so what they think is the way of protecting my family is provide for them and be the top disciplinarian. My children should be scared when they hear that, oh, I will tell daddy. I will tell daddy is what is the threat for? What is it meant to achieve? If I will tell daddy makes my child scared, I have failed as a father.
mm.
I will tell daddy should make my child feel, oh, thank God someone will understand. And it doesn't mean thank God someone will excuse my behavior.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll tell you a little story. So a few days ago, I was working in the study, and then my wife was also working, but she was looking after the kids while because we run a little shift pattern since the lockdown, where she would be with them, and then later I would take over while she catches up with stuff. And then my daughter, my daughter got angry with my son, and got so angry, didn't hit him, but got so angry that she was in a mood. And then my wife wasn't happy with the fact that she was in that prolonged mood. So when I came back out, I said, oh, what's going on? My wife said, well, she's just been stroppy all day. I don't know what's wrong. And then she ran to me. I said, come, what's up? She told me what happened. And then my wife said, well, I've told you this boy is 2 years. The way you get angry at him, calm down. I smiled. I waited for her to finish. Then I took my daughter and I said to her, you do know you have a right to be angry when things don't work out the way you want, right? It's natural. But that anger is telling you that there's something you might have to look at again. For example, you're angry that you were building some things and your brother was scattering them. He's only 2.5. And he thinks that scattering it is play. He doesn't mean to annoy you. And so that anger should make you remember that this is a little boy. And what you can do is calm yourself down. I've already taught her how to calm herself down when she's angry, right? So I said to her, we'll practice that finger breathing and all that so that you can calm down because angry people do stupid things. And I know you don't want to do a stupid thing to your brother. So the more you do this, the more you will understand that he's not out here to annoy you. She hugged me very tight. And then I started crying. And I asked her, why was she responding that way? She said that she was confused why he was always annoying her. And I
Mm,
said to her, yeah, he's not always annoying you. His behavior is annoying you because you didn't understand that that's all he can do now. But now that you understand, watch and see if he still annoys you. And she smiled. Now, the following day, he did a similar thing. And my daughter, I wasn't even there. I was in the kitchen and I heard her go, oh, JJ, oh, one day you grow up and you won't be annoying anymore. And that one. And then I asked her what happened. She said, oh, that he pushed that thing down and she was almost getting angry. Then remembered that he's just being a toddler and toddlers are silly. And we laughed
mm,
about it. Okay. So what if I had come in there and flogged her or talked down at her in a very
mm,
strong voice? What would that create? That would create to her, will signal to her that it is all right for a man to abuse her.
mm,
And if at some point in her life she's in an abusive relationship, you can't even fight it. Many women have to endure abusive relationships because of this same thing. Somewhere deep inside, they've been configured to accept that it's okay for a man to abuse you.
mm,
Okay. Now, no, daddy, you're not being a good daddy when you're that one that the idea of you causes fear. It should not cause fear. No, it should not cause fear. It should make, when we say, oh, I'll tell your daddy. So if my wife says to my daughter, oh, I'll tell daddy, the first thing that crosses my daughter's mind is, daddy will ask me questions. So I better get ready to answer the questions. Because that's how I do my coaching. I ask her questions until we'll arrive at the point. Can we all agree that discipline, the aim of discipline or the job of a parent is to teach, to guide,
Teach.
to guide? When we are giving exams in school, the aim of the exam is not to catch you out and show how dull you are. The aim of the exam is to know to what extent you've understood the material, so and your suitability for the next level. And when you don't pass the exam, you resit the exam.
That's
You
it.
redo the class,
Hmm.
because the aim is to get you ready for the next level. The aim is not to punish you, to dump you out. So if your child, and children can walk us up, which is why you need to be sure that as a trainer, you are getting the right training yourself. You're trained enough to
Hmm.
train, because then you would
Hmm.
know what choices to make. And when you're
Yeah.
connecting with the child as the child is, it also makes a difference. My daughter, for example, is not motivated by threat.
Hmm.
And many, in fact, humans are not motivated by threat.
Maybe. Oh yes. Oh yes.
We are not. Our
Hmm.
brain is wired to avoid threat. Even if
Hmm.
the avoiding the threat means fighting anything that is stopping the threat. I mean,
Hmm.
laws are made. Don't people break laws even when they know the repercussions?
Hmm.
Because
Hmm.
it's not- Consequences don't deter intention at all. What don't teach? What teaches is what people see, what is modeled. A corrupt government saying to people, be straightforward. Well, you have a corrupt nation, for goodness sake. So I encourage fathers to know that the key role of a father is to be that security. There's no
Hmm.
security in punishment. Punishment is revenge. Punishment is to cause pain. Punishment is to literally slow. Think of slavery. Think of what happened. That's where capital punishment all arose from as well. So the aim of that is to reduce your power. Now ask yourself, do I enjoy reducing the power of my kids to be the best version of themselves? Or am I being the manure and the stake that is guiding them to grow and to use the right resources around them? To what extent do I control myself enough that my kids learn control just by observing me? Flogging and all the hitting and everything. We think it works. No, it instills fear. It hasn't taught the person any lesson. The moment they break out of your ability to hit them, they do what they want. So you've not
Hmm.
guided them in the way they should go. You've literally guided them in the wrong path, because then this same
Hmm.
grow up to be adults that beat their wives or abuse their co-workers, have rage issues and anger issues, have illnesses on the long run. These are all caused by some of these things that threaten brain development and functioning.
Thank you so much, Uncle Ben. And I think that's what we're going to round up for today. But before we go, I'd like to ask you, what are your last words to fathers who are listening today? What advice will you be giving to that father out there listening to you at this moment?
My fellow father, thank you. Thank you so much for actually taking time to listen. We know that it's difficult to get men to pay attention to some of these psychological talk. Sometimes we see it as a bit too soft. So the fact that you're doing this, you've already won. Well done. I'm proud of you. I'm grateful to you. I'm so happy. Um, the other thing I would say, oh, there's a question comment. Interestingly, today some parents still get angry because they don't have solutions or ask their children the right questions. That is very, 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 very true, Kanu. That is so, so true. And I wish we start using our anger as a trigger to alert us of the fact that something is missing in the body. I mean, anger. Quickly, I'll have to say that the anatomy of anger is literally a signal from your brain going, "Oh, something isn't aligning." And so when you're angry, take that as a signal to say, oh, what am I depriving myself of right now that is making my brain think that there's a threat? And once you ask that question, you can find the resources. The anger doesn't mean anything is wrong with you. I'm angry that I can't help my kids. Doesn't mean anything is wrong with you. Something will be wrong with you when you don't do anything about it. Okay, so fathers listening, stay intentional. A lot about your child depends on you. The mere fact that no woman can be a mother without a contribution from a father means that you are important. You're prime. You are important. Your role is important. When a child sees a father being vulnerable enough, being down to earth, being there, there's something so beautiful about that. Okay, and that is a way to bring out the best also from your spouse. What then do we do when the children are always up to obey you when they are doing the wrong thing? What then do you do when I don't understand the question, but I think what Ebenezer is trying to say is when your children don't obey you. Now, Ebenezer, my brother, obedience is not compliance. In fact, obedience comes from the same thing about the root of it also still comes from that about embracing the teaching of a teacher. A disciple obeys their teacher just because the disciple aligns with the teacher. So if the children are not obeying, can we ask ourselves, what do we mean? Do you mean that your child says no or does what they like? Well, for a start, children must be children. Children are not adults. Your child is not seeing the world the way you see the world. You can only help your child when you turn around to see the world through their lens. So if a child is saying no, disobeying you, rather than crack your own whip, saying, okay, I'll put my foot down, is there a chance that that can be an invitation for you to say, oh, what can I do differently? Who do I need to be to achieve the right outcome with this child? What might be the problem? Because it goes to a deeper level instantly. All right. It also depends on the age of the child, what stage in their development they are. Teenagers, for example, are battling with hormonal up and down in their life. For instance, toddlers are already learning. Nature made it so that toddlers have to develop the ability to say no, to stand their ground. It's a survival instinct. Okay. And then for adults, well, adults will resist what they don't agree with. So because I don't exactly understand what you mean or the particular concepts, I'm being a bit general here. Now, the question I always ask people is, if you realize that there's no place for flogging at all, if it was something that you don't have the ability to do, let's say, what if you had no hands and you couldn't hold a cane physically? What would you do? Or that this disobedient child is also handicapped or like disabled in a sense, what would you do? You won't go about hitting this child. If this child was an adult that you were told to do the same thing, maybe an adult that is your subordinate, for instance, and they resist you, you're not going to hit them. So I still am yet to understand why, as parents, we don't ask ourselves that logical question of what can I do differently to achieve the outcome I need? Because there is something to be done differently. I'll give you a secret. Positive motivation always works. Always. Of course, sometimes you need to deny them stuff, obviously. However, positive motivation always works. The cane, resorting to the cane means that it's laziness, if we call a spade. It's laziness, it's aggression, it's inability to control your own emotions. It
Mhm.
means that you're in a fight or flight state and you're fighting. And when you're in a fight or flight state in the brainstem part down here, it's a subconscious behavior. It means you're not thinking. So anything else you say, any logic you bring out of it is not logic. It's only a rationalization of an instinctive survival behavior. Well, if we are in that survival mode, that mindset right there, there's nothing different between the person and an animal. Because animals, that part of the brain is called the reptilian brain because we share it with animals, with reptiles, with rats. That is why drugs are still tested with rats and then given to humans.
Hmm.
But we've evolved. Animals don't have brain 2 and brain 3 that we have. So when you're reacting based on that brain 1, it means you are not acting like an evolved being that you are. A child is closer to an animal than to a human being, for goodness sake, right? Because as a child, their cognitive center brain 3 hasn't developed properly yet. That's why they are in school. That's why we keep training them and everything to help them develop that brain part. So you understanding that and saying, oh, okay, what do I do differently? It's your responsibility. It's where the real maturity is. And also, kids must be kids. Let's also accept that.
All right. And I think this is where we round up. Okay, I think Obeniza, that question was answered. Thank you
Oh,
so
sorry,
much, Uncle
sorry.
Ben.
I was saying to my fellow dads. So thank you again. Please let's
Yes.
continue to take charge. Let's lead the way for the family to follow by
Hmm.
actually doing what is required of us, the job role. Let's continue to interact. Let's talk. Let's get together. Let's support each other. There's nothing wrong with being vulnerable enough to say, I need help. And go for it is for the better. You are the man. I respect you so much for being here. And I believe in you that together we can make a change and create a better society. Thank you, brother.
Thank you so much, Uncle Ben, and thank you for being here. Thank you, TIP Fathers. Yay, it's Father's Day. And I'm sure we made a customized DP
Oh,
for
yes.
all the
Thank you for
fathers
that.
in TIP. Yes, so
Thank
you can get yours. You can just log on to the TIP Facebook group. You will see the link to just create your own customized TIP Father's Day DP that you can showcase. And then we celebrate you, we honor you. We do not take it for granted that you are part of this work with us. So by 8 p.m., we're going to have the grand finale, where we are going to be having my husband,
you,
coincidentally,
Governor.
speaking, the governor, speaking on how to become a role model to your children. Please be there, 8 p.m. today, and then we close the Fathers Conference for this year. Happy Father's Day again, and thank you to everybody who had stayed here continually from the first day till today. Thank you so much, Uncle Ben. Thank you, and happy Father's Day to you too.
Thank you so much. Thank you for organizing this. God bless you all. Thank you.
All right. See you all at 8 p.m. Good is evening, afternoon.